So Germany sacks France pretty early on in the war, 1940, with its blitzkrieg technique, and Britain is now all by itself, taking on Germany. All right. So Germany plans its bombing campaign of Britain. This is the battle. Okay. So Germany is flying mission after mission over Britain to bomb Britain, and it's bombing ports, it's bombing railroads, it's bombing factories, anything that can take Britain out of the war and force it to surrender. But Britain refuses to surrender, and Britain is also gaining some resources from the United States across the Atlantic. Germany gets a little bit frustrated with this, and so they just start bombing everything, like London, kind of losing focus. And over time, as Britain still refuses to surrender, Germany decides to attack the Soviet Union, who it had just before signed a peace treaty with. Okay, so now Germany has taken on the responsibility which it didn't want at the beginning, and that's a two-front war. We have Britain on one side, and we have the Soviet Union on the other. Around the same time, Japan attacks the United States at Pearl Harbor. Trying to boot the United States out of the Pacific. The United States now enters the war. Lost my fire. So the United States has entered the war. It agrees with Britain to focus on Europe first, and they also build an alliance with the Soviet Union. So you have this very strange alliance with a communist country and a couple capitalist countries. Makes no sense, but the greater evil is Germany. Okay, so Stalin in the Soviet Union keeps trying to force his allies, Winston Churchill of Britain and Roosevelt of the United States, to start a second front, invade France, because that would alleviate some of the pain of Germany that is focused on the Soviet Union. But the United States and Britain, they don't feel like they're there yet, so they invade Africa instead, okay, partly to save the Suez Canal, that's the British key to the east, and also to attack the German forces and Italian forces that are in North Africa. Eventually, Britain and the United States make their way through Africa. So the United States and Britain invade Italy, and actually Italy will fall out of the war. In the meantime, in the Pacific, the United States has beaten Japan in some pretty important battles, like the Battle of Midway, Guadalcanal, and Saigon. And so the United States can begin bombing campaigns of the Japanese mainland. Okay, back over into Europe. By 1944, the United States and Britain feel like they have enough control of the Atlantic. They've weeded out all the U-boats in the Atlantic, so they believe that they can begin a full-out invasion of Western Europe. That means invade France, and we call it D-Day, right? The storming of the beaches of Normandy in France. And little by little, then, Britain and the United States were able to make their way across Europe. As they do that, it takes away some of the concentration. Germany can focus on the Soviet Union, and so the Soviet Union can start pushing back on Germany. So Germany is getting closed in. Back in the Pacific, the United States is still island hopping its way closer and closer to the Japanese mainland, getting very close. Back in Europe, eventually, the United States and Britain have made their way into Germany. The Soviet Union makes its way into Berlin, and Nazi Germany falls. Back in the Pacific, the United States is getting close enough, and they're deciding, should we still island hop into the Japanese mainland, or use, and voila, this new bomb we have, the atomic bomb. They decided the atomic bomb, bomb Japan, Japan surrenders. End of story.